Hey guys, welcome back, it's Ripe again. In today's video, a ridiculous entitled Karen on an airplane claims that she is a VIP and demands I give up my business class seat because it supposedly belongs to her instead. Here is what happened, let's dive right into the video. All things considered, I don't think I'm an angry person, but in fairness to me, it's been a hell of a week. I thought needing to book a last-minute flight to visit a dying relative was bad enough. I was not expecting the trip though to be awful as well. So in this case, another passenger who I will only identify here as Karen treated me like crap for no reason to boot. But all such people are quick to find that karma is ready to bite them in the rear, just as in this case. So my morning started with a frantic rushing between computer screen and wardrobe. I had been told via text message half an hour earlier that a close elderly relative was in the hospital and that things looked bad. While I liked my independence and lifestyle, I was cursing my decision to move and work abroad right now, with most of my family many thousands of miles away. I arrived at the closest airport nearly 2 hours later, half a suitcase in one hand and a failing mobile phone in the other. I was sure I had properly booked the flight, but I was still waiting on confirmation. I impatiently passed through every check-in procedure and queue and with relief found myself at the flight gate just as they were preparing to board. I couldn't complain though, I must be the only person in the world to book something so last minute. Not that I felt I had much choice, not when it's for family. Nothing worried me more than missing this flight, which nearly pushed me over the edge when a rowdy customer ahead of me in the check-in queue was having an argument with a young lady at the desk. The aggressor was an older woman with short-cut grey hair, standing at around 5 feet tall. Despite her tiny frame, she had quite the bark on her. When I saw her, I immediately thought she was the type of Karen people gossip about online. I did not catch much of the conversation. The airport was busy and noisy pretty much everywhere, but her voice cut above the rest on occasion. "Didn't you hear me, you little tramp?" the Karen cried. "I wanted a seat in business class." Peering around the queue, I could see the younger woman standing sheepish and defensive, shaking her head and talking softly, but Karen was having none of it. "I own your damn airline, lady. That makes me an honored VIP, you hear? Where's your manager?" she replied. A few minutes of talking continued before she moved on. I'm unsure how it was resolved in the end. The process ran smoothly after that. Karen was lost in the crowd and everyone behind her was all the happier for it. I was now stood in the last queue for boarding the plane when a familiar shrill voice cut up my eardrums. The figure walked past me, cutting the queue entirely as she intercepted the front desk and began to confront another staff member. After showing her passport and ticket, Karen was trying to explain how the check-in desk lady had moved her to a business class seat, which she didn't. Karen tried her luck again and failed miserably. She gave up when airport staff opened a new queue to work around her and she sulked away. Unsurprisingly, the rest of the passengers shuffled onto the plane without complaint and I could see that we collectively shared the same dread. Not looking forward to being stuck in the same metal box with this Karen for the next few hours. I thanked the stewards as I entered the cabin, stowed my bags and sunk into my plush seat in business class. Looking around, I was relieved to see no sign of Karen as we prepared to embark. I breathed a final sigh of relief as I put my headphones in and closed my eyes. I then heard, which jolted me out of my rest. Karen, red-faced, was storming up and down the aisle in business class, closely followed by the stewards. Taking out the headphones to listen in, I could hear Karen yelling, demanding to find a seat here. When the stewardess refused to accommodate her demands, she turned her attention instead to the passengers. One by one, she asked then ordered each person to swap seats with her. I kept my head down, but that did not stop her looming over me all the same. She must have sensed that she had a chance with me, as she did not move on after a few seconds. "I need you to swap with me, young man. The airline made a mistake with your seat, you see. I'm meant to be in business class," she said in a mock kindness through gritted teeth way. My eyes darted to the stewards behind me in a quiet plea for intervention. Admittedly, they were useless in stopping her. "Sorry ma'am, I cannot do that," I replied weakly, struggling to meet her expectant stare. She took offense to my refusal and began to chew me out like a drill sergeant at boot camp. All the while this was happening, more and more passengers were being drawn into the drama. Seas of heads were turned with mobile phones set on record. "You move right now, you little punk, or you will never fly with my airline again," she spat at me. Her breath reeked of cheap booze, making me immediately assume her aggressive confidence was due to a problem with alcoholism. Her attitude was also starting to annoy me a little. I was working up quite an anger myself. "Just hold on a minute. Why do you need my seat?" I added. Before she could reply, an announcement from the pilot reminded everyone to be seated, and the stewards tried to usher her away. When it looked like she was gonna listen, I stood up one last time, stretching out a bad back. Suddenly, I felt hands on me, and then I fell into the aisle, hitting my head on a nearby armrest. My head spun for a second, but I was luckily in one piece. Slowly getting back to my feet, I realized Karen was smugly sat in my seat. She was the one who pushed me out. I chuckled, trying to make light of the situation. "Alright, very funny lady, can you get up now?" I asked as I gestured for her to leave. She shook her head and then began reading from the safety leaflet, refusing to budge. Like the world around her had stopped or moved on, she ignored simply everything. After a few more minutes of arguing, I was ready to throw her back out of the seat myself, while the stewards were facing just as much difficulty by the looks of it. I asked them for help, quietly letting them know that she was very drunk too, and after a few minutes they returned with a very annoyed and reluctant pilot. He spoke in a calm but firm manner, saying, "Ma'am, if you cannot return to your assigned seat, you will be removed from the plane for causing a disturbance." As he spoke, she began angry again, shouting back her protests. She attempted to argue her case, but the pilot left and Karen had evidently made her decision. 10 minutes later, 2 burly airport staff marched through the aisle, surrounded Karen and hauled her to her feet. She put up a fight, trashing and cursing, but was unsuccessful. She was led away while passengers around us cheered and hollered at her departure. She yelled back that she would have everyone fired when they realized their mistake. Despite lifting off nearly half an hour behind schedule, the plane reached its destination with little trouble. Due to a miraculous tailwind, we found ourselves making up for lost time, meaning the bus ticket I booked to get me out of the airport the other side would not be wasted. I ended up staying for a few days, and I'm happy to report my relative pulled through after their surgery. In regards to Karen, the nightly news did mention the disturbance briefly, but her fate was still being decided. And yeah, ripe stars, if you ever had to deal with any entitled Karens on airplanes, then please let me know in the comments about what happened. Honestly, there's nothing more annoying than entitled selfish people on airplanes, since you're basically stuck in a can with these people for a few hours. The next one is a revenge story, and it starts like this. So this happened many years ago when I used to work for a very well-known hotel chain. We were coming up to a very busy event weekend and were already completely sold out for Saturday night. We could accommodate walk-ins Friday night, but for only one night. This was expressed to all walk-ins who came to check in. They could not stay both Friday and Saturday. One set of folks checked in Friday night and were laughing as they went to their room, already with the mindset that they were not checking out and were gonna stay both nights. These rooms were booked a year in advance for this event and prepaid. We were certainly not gonna try to send someone who prepaid away because of these jerks. The next morning they left to go out for the day and left all their stuff in their room. They were reminded that checkout was noon. Again they laughed and said that they were not leaving. We had housekeeping pack up all their stuff and bring it down to the front desk area and waited for their return. Imagine their surprise when they wasted the whole day and came back to find out that we had already rekeyed the room and other people were already in it. We gave them their stuff and they were in shock. They thought that their little trick was going to get them to stay during this event, but nope, the entire city was sold out, so good luck with that. They took the corporate's number so they could complain. It still makes me laugh, and that was over 30 years ago. And the next one is a story of someone complying with Karen and then her getting what she deserves. So at my job they offer fundraising cards which have 20 coupons that give free items, and on the card it says that you can only use one at a time. However, the franchise owner allows us to accept 2 coupons at once based on that he's a nice guy. I had just gotten to work and within 5 minutes a lady drives up and steps out of a $100,000 Audi. She had ordered over the phone and my coworker was new, so he told her to bring in her coupons and we would adjust the price, but he told her that she could only use 2 coupons at a time. She comes to the counter and says that she's here to pick up for, let's say, Mandy. I pull her food out of the hotbox oven and she then even hands me 3 fundraiser coupons for a free medium pizza when you purchase a large pizza, a free garlic bread and a free cinnamon bread. I then explained that we can only take 2 at a time, and if she wanted it, she would have to pay full price, or I could remove it from her order and then trash it. She immediately becomes defensive, blaming it on the 15-year-old coworker that took her order, that he needs to be punished. I then again explained that I can just take the bread off and it would be no problem. She starts examining the coupons, which are very little, and tears off from the larger fundraiser card, which explains the coupon policy even more conservatively than what I was willing to allow. She starts to proclaim that because of the individual tabs don't say the coupon policy, that it is ridiculous that I am making this up. I ask her if she has the larger card, and of course she says no. After seeing that I'm not gonna back down, I cannot, as the owner can see my price adjustments and will see that I took 3, she tells me to void the order, and I oblige with no sarcasm or rudeness. I never take any of these crazy people and their insults personal. I tell her, have a good day, and she then starts yelling that she did not mean that I should void the whole order. Yes, she did, as she thought I wouldn't throw away her food. She starts insulting me, but by then I explain that she won't be getting any food from this location. She asks me if I'm the manager and that she wants my personal cell phone number to send to corporate. Wanting to be done with the situation and knowing corporate is even more conservative, I write down my name and phone number and tell her to have a good day. She refused to leave, but then started calling my phone, which was in my pocket. I have an Apple Watch, so I can see that she is calling as my wrist is vibrating. After about 5 calls, I respectfully remind her that she asked for my phone number and showed her my watch ringing with her cell phone number across the screen. She gives me a sarcastic smile and ignores what I say. Knowing that she's being a dumb Karen, I just go back to sweeping the front half of the restaurant, and she just continues to call my phone, leaving me messages about how rude I am being. I go to the bathroom, and she somehow had gotten my coworker's attention, the 15-year-old guy, and starts interrogating him about why he would lie to her on the phone and that we are the rudest people she has ever dealt with. I come up to the front and tell him to stop answering her questions and that she needs to leave. She then starts screaming at the top of her lungs that "You're lying and dishonest," but then tells me to shut up and that she is talking after continually telling her to leave in a respectful tone. She keeps repeating that I'm a liar and that she is gonna get me fired. I finally have to tell her that I'm gonna call the cops if she doesn't leave, and she then screams, "Do it!" over and over. By this time, about 20 minutes have passed and other customers are asking her to just leave. She then threatens my job again and walks out and drives to the other location that just happens to have the owner working. She obviously lied to him and he calls me to see what happened with her in the background, as I can see her dumb Karen voice. I explain everything and he then turns to her and says, "Actually, ma'am, I'm only going to be able to let you use one of those coupons per the fundraiser card, and I have one right here to show you the policy." Still on the phone at the time, I hear a loud shriek from her that sounds like someone was being devoured by the swamp monster, followed by the owner telling her to get the F out of his store. And the next one is an "Am I the a-hole" story. So I, 33 female, am the breadwinner of our household. I have multiple highly specialized degrees for a niche industry. I make 200k plus with potential to get in the 600 to 1 million range. My company has not been hit that badly by COVID, so most of us have kept our jobs, but we are held to strict standards. My husband, 36 male, has a broad degree and work experience. He quit his job right before the pandemic hit, hoping for a better job in the meantime, and I was supportive. He spent a ton of time applying to various jobs and finally landed an interview at Organization X. This is basically his dream job in almost every imaginable way. I cannot be too detailed though, however it's paying about 65k a year, which would be fine, except this job directly puts my job stability at risk. My company and this organization are adversarial at best. My field is extremely secretive, and if clients discovered my spouse was working for a competitor, I would be permanently tainted. I would not be able to get a job in the industry forever. I know this sounds like an exaggeration, but I promise you, it absolutely is not. It would be like if I worked in protecting the privacy of celebrities and he worked for TMZ. If he tapped my car, got into my work devices, he could use that to advance his career, and any trust I have in this field will be gone. Even if I trusted my husband not to do that, my clients and company don't. Worse, because my background is so specialized, this is the only field I can work in. I asked him to drop from consideration for this job, since if he got it, we would lose my income, and 65k a year cannot support us in this city. Plus, he does not have to work for this organization. Even if the job market is awful right now, his background gives him access to a wide range of jobs. However, I only have this one niche field. He was extremely angry and said that I was selfish and only cared about the money. I told him that if he wanted to go back to school for an advanced degree or just be employed for a while, I would support him, but taking this job is not possible. He continued the process behind my back and got the offer. He wants to accept it because he says his career needs to take priority and that I was not being a supportive wife. I feel so betrayed and I've contacted all relevant higher-ups in my company to inform them. I notified them as soon as he got the interview because it's better coming from my email than from a background check. I told him he could decline the offer, with me watching him physically decline it, or he could accept the offer and move out immediately. I would pay for him to stay 2 weeks at a hotel and we would begin the divorce proceedings. My company is willing to take care of all my legal fees. I feel awful, but I still love him. I moved decisively because this was the best way to cut my losses, but it still hurts. He called me heartless and cold. It's true that I was prioritizing my career over his, but it felt like the only option at the time. Comment number 1, not the a-hole. You told him from the beginning that if he took this job, it would end your specialized career. He went ahead with the application behind your back. Regrettably, he put you in the position of choosing between him and your career. I think you made the right choice. You clearly resent what he has done, and I cannot see that getting better if you lose everything you worked for. Comment number 2, he knew the reasons why he should not pursue this job and yet he went for it anyway. If that's not selfish, I don't know what is. His new career needs to take priority? Why? If it's possible for you two to just separate for a while, maybe that's something you can do before actually filing for divorce. Or you can file and drag it out until he realizes that he cannot support himself on that income, let alone the both of you, since you won't be able to find another job in your field. Either way, if he's refusing to compromise, you two cannot live together anymore. And yeah, ripe stars, I would also say OP is not the a-hole here, actually the husband is kind of selfish. Also, you kind of have to look at it pragmatically. No matter who makes more money in the relationship, doesn't matter if it's the husband or the wife, if you cannot survive on the salary of that one person alone, especially if that person is making less money, then you simply either have to compromise, in this case the husband searching for another job, or as OP suggested, simply break up for some time. And if that doesn't work, then maybe divorce is the right decision, because clearly there's some type of selfishness involved here. And the next one is titled Great Petty Revenge. I, 23 female, took my first job 1 month after I gave birth to my youngest daughter. It was difficult for me to work graveyard at a call center, and since I'm breastfeeding both 2 of my daughters, I could not always drink anything with caffeine. So in order to keep me awake, I make my own special drink. I always bring 2 bottles of it. I put the other one on the fridge in the pantry while I bring the other one with me on my desk. After lunch, I would grab my extra, and after a while I noticed that the bottle is not full anymore. Until one time it is just empty. I wanted to know who's been stealing my drink, so I brought 3 bottles. 2 of those stayed in my bag. The extra 3rd bottle, instead of sugar, I poured a lot of salt. It was at least 30% salt. Edit: during lunch break I placed the bottle in the fridge and waited patiently. And there she goes. She opened the fridge, went straight for my bottle and chuck and puke. Literally spit at the floor and then ran to the toilet. I will never forget the look on her face. That probably won't stop her from stealing again, so just to play safe, I never left any of my food or drinks on the fridge ever again. The next one is titled HR Karen is crazy entitled. I used to work in a call center where everyone had little cubicles. You could chat with people on either side or behind you if things got slow, but anyone on the other side of the divider was sort of hard to see or chat with. That's only important because Karen was in this hard to see location from me. Personally, I have issues with overheating medical stuff. I like to sit right under the AC vent. Nobody fought me for this because it was a little too cold for most people, and well, being a woman, this meant that sometimes I had some nipple pokey issues on some days. It's perfectly natural and to most people not noticeable because it was under my shirt and bra. Karen notices this and makes a report to HR. HR woman and my direct supervisor parade me through the cubicles and into their office to question me about my nipples. Now, I could have thrown a fit about this to begin with, since we didn't actually have a dress code and it's none of their damn business. They asked me to prove that I was wearing a bra, so I showed them the straps. They told me good enough basically and to go back to my desk. I refused to go back though. I said I needed to place a complaint about someone here. They asked me who I was reporting and I said, I don't know, but you do. I want to report whoever it was that's been staring at my breasts all day. Now that I know that someone is staring, I feel like this is a hostile work environment. They acted like I was joking at first until I said, if you don't have a talk with them, I will go over your heads and report you for forcing me to reveal my bra to you. I got escorted back to my desk and Karen was sitting there looking smug, until they escorted her to the HR office instead. I don't know what happened to her in the office and I didn't care. They did their part by having their talk with her. All I really wanted to know was who did it. Since it was a very slow day, all my coworkers started asking me what that was all about. The office gossip, you know. Well, I told everyone exactly what had happened and added that Karen must be fascinated with my breasts since she noticed. Everyone else confirmed that they didn't even notice. When Karen came back from HR, every person in the room knew what she had done and was glaring at her. Snitches did not get stitches and didn't get fired either, but they got treated like the Karen they were. Nobody would talk to her, people would be chatting, see her come, try to join the conversation and go silent and turn away from her. Some people did loud whispers and made comments like, "Shh, don't say anything, she will report you." She quit about 2 weeks later. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my endless playlist, where you can find thousands of hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.